Hello and welcome to another edition of the Gooner on Arsenal Fan TV podcast. I'm your host Giles, and today we're coming to you basking under the warm glaze of a satisfying 3-0 victory over Hull City, with standout and command performances from Aaron Ramsey and Lucas Podolski. Joining me to discuss today's game and also to talk about the soon-to-air animated TV sitcom Warren United is the associate producer, Ben Freedman. Hello, Ben. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And also, we've got a regular panellist, Callum. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. All right, so let's get into the meat and bones of it. Ben,
yes.
You're about to air your show's about to air on the 22nd of April.
Yep.
To ITV4. Tell us how it came about.
It came about, it's my dad had the idea 8 years ago to make an animated sitcom about a man who was mad about football. Now, his background is in live theatre and in cinema. He'd never made a sitcom before in his life, but he had been an Arsenal fan for about 50 years and a sports fan for about 75. So he understood how painful it was. And so over the last 8 years, he sort of worked through getting the scripts made. He almost had the shows done on Dave about 4 years ago, and that fell through. And so this Tuesday night at 10 p.m. is going to be the end of beginning, we hope, of what was a long journey.
Indeed. And how had it been received?
Oh, it's been very well received, and we've done a number of screenings, the most recent of which was last week, where we did it to about 50 football bloggers. And we feel that there are two audiences for this. There are the football fans who recognise that perhaps they are slightly obsessed, and maybe they should laugh at that. And then there are the people related to those football fans who have to recognise that the only way to deal with them is to laugh at them.
But we say the football widows indeed. Okay, so give us some background on Warren United. Who's the main star, and what is he about?
Well, as we say, it's about the two most important F's in life: family and football. The star is Warren Kingsley, who supports a team called Brainsford United, while also working in Kitchen Magic, which is the UK's leading purveyor of cut-price kitchens. And sadly, Brainsford are not overly successful, despite trying again and again and again. I think their last trophy win was 1972 when they won the Johnson Paint Trophy. So he suffers a lot. And his family around him, his wife Ingrid, who he met during a UEFA Cup tie when he woke up in her front garden, having had a little too much to drink. His teenage son, Harrison, who is a meringue but perhaps would like not to be. His teenage daughter, his rather oversexed mum, her Canadian boyfriend, and of course his best friend Nitin, or his best friend Dilip, who works with him at Kitchen Magic and is a great fan of country and western music.
Wow, it's some synopsis. Can I ask you how did you get all the pieces together for this show? I mean, it sounds like you've got. I was reading up on the cast list, and it's a magnificent cast list, and the writers as well.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of started with the animator. Tim Searle is the director of animation, who, amongst other things, he does the credits for Have I Got News for You. He's a very, very well respected UK animator. We then got three writers together. Simon Nye is the lead writer, who wrote Men Behaving Badly and Reggie Perrin, as well as David Quantick and Dominic Holland, who are both very well-known writers. So we ended up with 6 scripts. We then started to cast it, Darren Boyd was the first choice for Warren, because he really does encapsulate what Warren is about. And then once we got, good scripts attracts good actors. And so we've got Nishin Ganatra from EastEnders who's playing Dilip. We've got Morgana Robinson. We've got Marina Banks, yes, Georgie Blanks. Johnny Vegas, who plays Fat Baz, the manager. When you talk to the actors, they say what a pleasure it is to act out a script that is so well written. And that's the key. And so often, I think, particularly with the recent British attempts at animation, people forget to write the scripts.
Indeed. I was going to ask, how does it differ from, because we've had so many great American imports like Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park. How are we sure that it's not going to be a sort of a takeoff, from one of those shows in a football kind of guise? I mean, how does it differ? How is it?
Well, it's very much it's a British sitcom. I mean, I think that all of the American imports are very manic. They are slightly illogical and detached from reality, whereas good British sitcom are based on strong characters that we recognize, and also poking fun at an institution. And in this case, it is the institution that is football. We've had sitcoms about religion, we've had sitcoms about the army, and we have sitcoms about department stores. This is a sitcom about football. And that's what makes it particularly British, I think.
Okay. And also, the actors that you've got in place, how can they put it across that they're actually interested in football, or the relatives are, how can they put across their own take on being football widows, or football fans?
I mean, each performer, we have, the relationship between Warren and his family. I mean, the first episode is July, the one that's going out on Tuesday night at 10 p.m. on ITV4, is about what happens to a football fan during the off-season. The 1 month a year when there isn't a game on, although we do find out in the episode that there are games in Russia in July. So he thinks about perhaps going off and seeing those. But so there's, the funny thing, if everybody's out in the sun, but he's watching old videos, and the joy of the family, how they deal with it. They send him off for some therapy. The therapy doesn't quite work out. And at that point, the family become truly worried when he decides he doesn't want to go to the first game of the year. But luckily, he's cured.
Right. Otherwise, all hell could have broken loose. Indeed. Great stuff. All right. And how many episodes have we got?
There's 6 episodes. We hope the first of many. But traditionally, British sitcoms are done in 6s. And then ITV will show it, obviously, this week, and then they will be on ITV Player thereafter.
Cool. Will it run into the lead up to the World Cup as well?
I mean, it will finish. I think the last episode is the end of May. So just before the World Cup. But we've got a couple of little short videos ready for the World Cup, and a couple of apps, actually. We've got our Burger Al app, because he is the chief cook in the episode. He runs the greasy spoon on the run up to the ground, and we've created a cookbook for all those fans going off to Brazil worried about what the catering might be like.
Great stuff. I understand that there's quite a few of you are Gooners, aren't there? Yes,
very much so. I mean, my Dad took my brother and I to our first game in 1968. May 1968, Arsenal West Brom. Arsenal won 2-1. Bobby Gould scored. And we've been season ticket holders ever since. And we suffer like everybody else week on week.
Indeed. And that brings us, it's a nice segue to bring us into today's game. You saw the game today, Ben. What did you make of it? What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought, isn't it great to have Ramsey back, in simple terms? And why won't he play Podolski in the middle? Were the two sort of conclusions from today and from Tuesday night, because I just think he plays Podolski out on the wing, expects him to defend when he should just play him in the penalty area where he can score goals.
So, do you think that he could well play the lone striker role, or do you think he's a bit in a two-man?
No, I don't think he can play the lone striker. I think it needs a little bit of flexibility in our formation, which doesn't often happen. But, I think he would play well off Giroud. I don't think he can play the lone striker because he did that tail end of last year, and he looked sort of completely out of it because he can't really hold up the ball. But you give him the ball in the penalty area, and he'll score.
He's a deadly striker, isn't he?
And I just, you play 4-4-2 when you have to. If you've got all your players, maybe you don't want to do that, but I just think it should be an option that should be considered.
Indeed. Callum, I want to bring you in. What are your reflections on today's game?
What Ben said, really, it was just nice to have Aaron Ramsey back, and I got a big kind of feeling of what could have been, having seen the way we played today, and just having Ramsey in there and a half-fit Mesut Ozil when we suddenly looked as good as we have done for many a week, But, as Ben said, you want Podolski in and around the area because he's been extremely clinical there, and he's got 2 braces and 2 matches, which is a superb turnaround. And I don't know, I just felt that we kind of got our swagger back today. We played every part of the pitch. We were playing better from the defence to the attack, and there seemed to be a bit of a lift, and it was nice not only to see us win, but to see us win well, which it feels like we haven't done for quite a long time. So, I think with before this game, I thought this was the hardest match we had left, going away to Hull. We've got 2 home games against West Brom and Newcastle next, so I was just delighted to see us not only win, but to win in such emphatic style, really. And the last 20-25 minutes for us just seeing the game out, and we haven't really had an awful lot of that recently. So it was a great performance, and it certainly made me think, if only we'd been this good the whole season, then perhaps we'd still be out there at the top. But a good win nonetheless, anyway.
Indeed. We were saying before the game, Ben, isn't it? The first few minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, they were kind of put us on the back foot. But as soon as we got we got to the sort of the level of the game and got our passing going, it was a one-way traffic, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I still get. I mean, as I was saying, I get a bit nervous about Monreal, and they were pumping crosses in, and there was a couple of times Chesney. He came a great few times, but he flapped it a couple. And had they bounced the other way, and then when they hit the post, I think that would have made a big difference if it had gone back to 1-1.
Just how good was Ramsey today? I mean, he had a hand in all 3 goals. The first goal was a beautiful piece. It was great for team football, actually, the way they opened up the space for him. And then the second goal was a lovely. Was the second goal the rebound? He shot it, and
that was Podolski's first goal when we counter-attacked when they thought they had the foul.
And he laid it off into Podolski's pass, and he hit it first time.
That's it. The chest down was beautiful, wasn't it? That was a great, and he didn't break stride. He just hit it one time, and then the final goal was his shot coming back off the goalkeeper, which Podolski then put away. Just how good was he today?
Pretty good.
He was, wasn't he? He was. I mean, do you think, consider that Podolski scored the brace, and Ramsey still got the man of the match performance, says something about. I mean, he did really linked it all up today, didn't he? And like you said, Callum, he really was what we've been missing for the most part of the season for the last 3 or 4 months.
Look at his goal when Cazorla picked the ball up, and Ramsey was immediately running into that space to score the goal. I mean, we haven't had that at all since he's been injured. He's the only player. Perhaps Oxlade-Chamberlain, but he rarely has the positional sense to get into those positions. But as soon as he lays the ball off Ramsey, he's then moving to get into that space. And when Ozil cut it back and played it to Santi, Santi, all he had to do was look up and see him, and he played it through, and it was a goal. Whereas, how often have we seen in recent weeks, Cazorla or Rosicky would break through from the midfield, look up, and there wouldn't be anyone to pass to. So it was just, you could just see from that goal alone how much he brings to us going forward. And he scored a few goals like that this season where he's broke through from the midfield. Yeah, the run beyond Giroud, which is important to have. And the finish was really good as well. It was well taken. And I think today was after 2 or 3 games he's played recently. This was his first game where he really felt like he was back to his best and completed the 90 minutes and seemed to be going to the end. So it was hugely encouraging for the last few games of the season.
Indeed. Can I ask, I'm going to start with you, Callum, and then go to you, Ben. We are now, how many points are we off of? I think we're 1 point behind City, is that right?
Yeah, but they have 2 games in hand.
We've got a couple of games in hand. But those 2 games, one of them's obviously next weekend over at Everton, who are flying again, after they lost to Crystal Palace. They lose, if Man City go over to Everton and lose, and we beat Newcastle at home, the game really is, and also again, I was chatting on Twitter, and somebody actually suggested if Chelsea lose at Liverpool and we beat Newcastle, we're 2 points off of Chelsea. So it seems as though just a few weeks ago it was, doom and gloom. I mean, I was the worst. I mean, you saw me, I was apoplectic, I was hysterical. It seems as though we could actually have a better season at the end of the season than it looked a few weeks ago.
But potentially, yeah, but I don't think whatever happens between now and the end of the season, it won't hide the disappointment of the last few weeks. I know you're not saying that, but I think it would be great if we could finish in 3rd place. But if I'm honest, at this moment in time, I'm more worried about Everton breathing down our necks than I am of catching City or Chelsea. So, next weekend, I'd much rather City go and beat Everton and allow us to put some bit of space between ourselves and them, rather than Everton winning and then being right behind us. But if Liverpool look like they've won the title now, haven't they? So if they beat Chelsea, then why not? Chelsea have been dropping points against smaller sides, but I don't think finishing 4th would be the worst thing in the world. I mean, obviously you want the automatic qualification and not to have those qualifiers, but I think we'll be seeded for the qualifiers should we get 4th. And we dispatched Fenerbahce pretty easily, didn't we? And when we were playing awfully as well. So I'm not too fussed about that. So I mean, it would be pretty if we ended up with 3rd place and the FA Cup. I mean, that would be great, wouldn't it? But I think we played well today, and it was a shame really that we were kind of playing this because you just kind of thought. Liverpool had ground out their victory earlier in the day, and they were still going. They're looking odds on for the title now, and we're kind of playing without that pressure of having to try and win it. And the disappointment will remain wherever we finish. But we're in a good position, especially considering what happened at Goodison Park the other week when we lost 3-0, because things looked desperate then. But Pulis and Palace did us a good favour in the week, and. Everton will push us close, but I fancy us to win our last 3 games now. This was the one I felt that if we were going to drop points, we would have done it today.
Cool, indeed. Ben, Callum said that suggested that the pressure's no longer on us. It's more so on Everton and City and Chelsea. I want to ask you: have you considered the possible permutations I've just outlined earlier, or are you just happy for us to sort of secure 4th place and then go on and try and secure the FA Cup?
You wouldn't be a football fan if you hadn't considered it. You go from doom and gloom to rule the world. I mean, I think that it's, in a way, this weekend, what the sadness of it is how we lost the plot for a month, why we lost the plot for a month, whether it was a combination of injuries or, had instead of being hammered by Chelsea and Liverpool, they had a couple of draws. It could have been very different. And what I'm still very confused about is why they lost the plot so completely. I think that that worries me that, they are playing better. But even, today in the first 10, 15 minutes, you think, well, they still look a little bit ropey if people attack them. And, at left back, Monreal throws his arms up in despair every time someone pushes him and he falls over, as he did last week against Wigan. And
then up front, so does Giroud, doesn't he?
Yeah, and you want somebody to sort of kick them up the backside at times. And I don't know, maybe Ramsey will become that person. I always thought Mertesacker was, but yet he just seems quiet when they get attacked. And I think until they solve that, they're never going to win the league. And I don't know how you go about doing that.
Is it a personal thing? Is it a training thing?
I think it's a tactical thing more than anything. We've gone over this, haven't we, over the last few weeks? But I think today though, you look at Hull and they tried to attack us by putting two men up front and a lot of pressure on us. But thankfully today we had a bit of quality that. But them doing that, we basically said, all right, if you're going to pressure us, then we'll just hit you on the counter, because you haven't got that extra man in midfield. You're pushing a lot of men forward, and that's where we got our goals. Where we were hitting them on the counter quickly, and it's harder to do when you haven't got Ramsey and Özil. Without those two players, it becomes difficult to spring meaningful attacks. But we've gone over the Everton result, the Liverpool result, the Chelsea result, and I think there's a combination of factors that needs to be worked on. And as Ben said, we're not going to win the league if that kind of thing keeps happening. And you hope that if we win the FA Cup this season, that puts a bit of belief in the players, and we can go into big games thinking that we're a big club and we've won things. So we don't need to be afraid of anything or play. But at the same time, I think the manager has to address some certain tactical issues that we've had, which was exposed. Yeah, which was exposed mainly at Everton, where Martinez seemed to have all the cards and Wenger seemed pretty clueless. And
the way to play us is you put 5 people in midfield and you press and press and press. I mean, I think Hull's mistake was playing 2 people up front. You're better to play 1 person up front and 5 in midfield. That seems to be the way to play us. That's what Wigan did.
I'm sure that's how he'll play in the cup, in the final.
Yeah, which means it's not a foregone conclusion by any means.
To be fair to Steve Bruce and Hull, though, the way they played in the first 20 minutes, they could have well have got a goal. And then if a goal goes in, then you think, well, that was justified, because they knew that in recent weeks we've just been so slow out of the blocks, and you could see from the beginning that we weren't getting any time on the ball. And they could well have scored in that first 20 minutes. I mean, it wasn't like they were bombarding the goal, but they certainly had more of the joy going forward. And another day they could have scored. And that was the gamble that Steve Bruce took, I think. He just thought, we've got 2. I mean, Long and Jelavic have formed a good partnership. They've not been on fire recently. But, they did look quite dangerous. And Szczesny made a good save from Jelavic, I think, at one point. And, I think I remember when Tottenham came and played the FA Cup match against us at the beginning of January, and they played 4 in the midfield, and we just completely outplayed them. And it wasn't quite as emphatic today for us, but we certainly seem to have a lot more joy going forward than we have done in recent weeks. And Özil was only, you could tell that he wasn't at his best. The ball was bouncing off him a little bit, and his passes were going a bit astray. But then, for the Ramsey goal, he just looked his head up, picked out Cazorla in the middle of the park, and then within a few seconds it was in the back of the net. So it's the little bit of quality that we've lacked in recent weeks. And I think Ben's right. The way to play against us is to pack the midfield and make it difficult for us to play. And I think Steve Bruce rolled the dice a little bit today, and I think it's commendable to him, because it looked like it might have worked at one point, but.
I suppose he didn't have anything to lose, didn't it? I mean, Hull are pretty much safe.
Yeah, the 6 points clear. I think they need 1 more point or 2 more points, and he probably thought. I think it was the right way to go about it in a way, because we're not exactly a team flying at the moment, and perhaps if we hadn't had the West Ham game in the week to pick us up a little bit, they might have had more joy. But I think it was a bold decision, and on another day it could have worked out. But thankfully, our quality prevailed.
Shone through.
Yeah,
indeed. I want to ask Ben. I mean, me and you, Cal, we've discussed it amongst the other guys. 4th place, FA Cup or not? Consider this, Ben. We get 4th place. We win the FA Cup. We've not only got the qualifying campaign fixtures or whatever is a qualifying round. We've also got to play a charity shield. Players are coming back from the World Cup. Pre-season's probably going to start later. Can we? I mean, is it progress? Can we afford to only look at 4th place?
It's definitely progress from last year. I think progress in terms of individual players. I mean, Ramsey is a different player. I think Walcott was a different player until he got injured. I mean, that's the thing that also people in the press don't tend to talk about. But he was actually looking like a much, much better player than he has been ever, I think, this year when he got hurt. I think Szczesny also. I mean, you look at, we've got 3 or 4 players who have made huge leaps forward this year.
Koscielny as well.
Yeah, Koscielny, and even Giroud to an extent. I mean, I think he is a setter-up of goals rather than a finisher, and he's missed some sitters, which would have been good. But and we had Cazorla, I think, suffered this year because he was injured. So if he has to go away for the World Cup, which is not great. But no, I think we've made a lot of progress. I think inevitably we need to add a couple of players. I think for me, what I would love to see is some captain on the field, somebody who gives them a bollocking when it doesn't go right on the field.
Well, to be fair, today at least he lost a tooth today, didn't he? He was that committed.
Yeah, I know, and he is, and I think he is good, but he's just not.
You're right, though. Yeah, he's not Tony Adams or Patrick Vieira, is he?
They just desperately need. Chelsea without John Terry are a different team. Liverpool without Gerrard are a different team. And Company and Man City, each one of them has somebody.
A talisman, yeah.
And we don't yet quite. And that, I think that's what we need to get into our head that we can then win, rather than come close. But I think we've definitely made progress this year.
Okay. All right. Cool. In terms of, if we, I know I'm jumping the gun, but if we do win the FA Cup, do you feel that if we only get fourth, or if we get fourth, do you feel that's an extra game we've got to negotiate alongside the Champions League qualifier? Is it? Would you say?
Community Shield? Are you talking about?
Yeah, the Community Shield. Obviously, if we win the FA Cup, we've got to play the Community Shield a week before the league season starts, and then I think a few days before the league season, usually there's a Champions League qualifier, and then there's one after the.
Well, we normally
the first game of the season.
We'd have the Community Shield, and a week later we'd have the league,
the start
and
of the
then
league,
in midweek the qualifier, then our second league game at the weekend.
Yeah.
And then the other.
And then you got a stupid England friendly or something like that. Thrown in there.
I don't know if it's any different because it's a World Cup year. But I don't think the Community Shield will be particularly damaging. I think we'll probably just play one less friendly. That will probably be the way it's done. And
instead of Barnet away,
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather play the Community Shield. Yeah.
And it'll be I think hopefully it'll be a place where we can showcase our 5 brand new signings, including our £50 million striker and whatnot.
But I think you're looking at it the wrong way. You're talking about the Community Shield. What about the 2 qualifying games?
Look,
those are much more
important. Clearly, we don't want to have to play those matches. But if we look at it objectively, I don't think we can say we've been one of the top 3 sides this season. The way we've fallen away, we probably deserve to finish 4th. I think we have to fight off Everton first, but I'd love it if we could finish 3rd, and if we win our last 3 matches, and perhaps Chelsea and City falter a little bit, then we'll be okay, and we might be able to nick that 3rd spot. But at this moment in time, I think we'll probably will finish 4th, and Everton will drop points against City or Southampton, and I'd fancy us to finish ahead of them. But at the same time, I don't really think we're gonna be able to catch City or Chelsea. I could be wrong. I'd like to be wrong. I'd love for us to finish 3rd, not have to worry about it. But the likely case is that if we do get Champions League football, it's going to be 4th place. And whilst we don't have to, I don't really like those qualifiers. I still think whoever we play, we should be able to navigate it pretty quickly. And one thing that would worry me is that some players might not want to join until we've got group stage qualification guaranteed.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's really a thing, but hopefully, I don't think it would.
I think it's a matter of him getting that business done early this time.
It really is important, isn't it? I mean, I know in England there's not really any clubs that have done any business, but I know in Germany Dortmund have bought 3 or 4 players already, and being quite proactive, and
there's World Cup year, these values going up.
This Joseph Dermich guy we're apparently close to buying, and
who's that?
There was the young guy from Nuremberg who we apparently had signed now, but we keep being linked with him. And it's so hard to tell with transfers, isn't it? And as you were saying, Ben, with your show, that point in July when there's no football on, and you go a bit doolally, and every day reading the transfer.
Oh yeah.
I tell you what, it's a horrible time of year. At least we've got the World Cup this year to distract us.
Yeah.
But we do have to get our business done early. We didn't sign Flamini until the end of August, and then obviously on deadline day. And all you can hope is that we've learnt from our mistakes. But with Wenger, you're never really sure if he is learning. But
you also next year, if you've got a couple of the young players in the RB will be a year older. I mean, he had a nice 4 or 5 game run and then disappeared, but he certainly looked comfortable. So I think they've also got you would hope a couple of young players will also step up to the plate in the way that sort of Ramsey has this year.
I think the key, also one of the keys, is steering clear of these injuries that we get. It seems to be systemic. It seems to me to be systemic rather than lucky, because if you look at it, 90 injuries for the season, that's more than 2 injuries.
Well, there was a thing
game,
I saw the other day, which was the percentage of the season missed
players.
Yeah, you got Jahabi at the top with 100% or whatever. Yeah. But, you know, something like Wilshere, who hasn't even been that injury prone, is missed 40% of the season. Yeah. 30%, Ramsey 40%, Chamberlain 50%, Podolski nearly 50%. And, you know, there's one thing about not having the right players, but it's the fact that you can't play the players that you do have that's incredibly frustrating. You know, you delight when you sign these good players, and when they're not available for weeks upon weeks, you just tear your hair out. And you look at Ramsey and Özil coming back now, and it's too late. You know, Ramsey's come back and he's been brilliant, but the title was gone the day we lost to Everton.
It definitely seems to be something more systemic than
I have no idea what it is, but you know, they've said they're going to launch this investigation, and it just seems. Just be careful. Obviously, I know nothing about this kind of thing, injuries, you know. But you look at Ramsey and Özil; they were played too much,
overplayed,
too much. They talk about being in the red, right? And you know, that's why you have a squad, and we're not exactly short of quality in the midfield. You know, it wouldn't have been a pain to say, right, in one of the games against lesser teams, to say, right, as
like Coventry.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, he played in that game, didn't he, Özil? But, you know, we've got Cazorla who can play that role. Rosicky could even do it. You know, if you want to rest Ramsey, you know, Wilshere, I think, is probably the best light-for-light replacement, and he doesn't get an awful lot of games in his favourite position, so why we should have rested Ramsey for 3 or 4 different games. And, you know, so there was mistakes that were made there. We did have a lot of injuries, and obviously Chamberlain and Podolski were injured for the whole first half of the season. But, you know, we can speculate what causes it, but you just have to hope that that there is serious work being done, because as much as I want us to sign new players, more than anything, I just want to see the players that we do have fit and raring to go. And you look at Liverpool's title challenge, I know they've had some injuries, but, you know, Sterling and Suarez, these guys, I mean, I know Sturridge is, and that is almost certainly helped by the fact they haven't had to play midweek games in Europe. But
and conversely, Man United have had 51 different formations in 51 games. You know, he's never kept the same 11.
The manager can't make his mind up. I think that's not easy. And also, of course, they have that Dutch centre forward who we got rid of.
Who's not playing anymore because he's injured.
Yeah, there's a surprise.
Ironically, yeah, exactly. Ben, so what do you reckon then, Ben? Do you think injuries have played a big part? And do you expect us to learn from, or to sort of, you know, find out, you know, why these injuries have occurred, and so going into next season, you know, we take care of that business?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I often wonder whether it's also the type of players that he signs, because he always signs people with speed, and they seem to have a lot of muscular injuries.
And this is the thing. There's been a lot of talk of soft tissue and impact injuries. I don't know the difference between the two, and there seems to be a lot of talk around.
I think it's like little pulls and tears. You know, what Özil had and what Ramsey had. They weren't caused by a bad tackle or anything. It was just overuse of those muscles, from what I understand anyway. Which they're the ones you can try and stop. Whereas obviously, if someone clatters your player and breaks his ankle, then there's nothing you can do about that. But
well, my dad has written to Mr. Wenger. My father's 85 and runs a Pilates studio in Islington. He's now written to Wenger 3 times, offering the services of the studio, but he hasn't heard back. So, but I think
maybe he didn't see it.
Well, you would hope that he would be looking for at any option, and I'm sure they'd get an Arsenal discount.
Because
Wenger can't be happy with it. You know, he must be pulling his hair out at it.
And the thing is, I know when he made the announcement, I think it was just before the Bayern Munich game or just after the Bayern Munich game, they're going to do a review. I expect that they do periodic reviews. You know, every 3 months or whatever, or 6 months and whatnot. But for him to come out and say that tells me that he's as stumped as we are.
Well, you'd hope that it means that we're going to actually actively change the way we do things. Because the rest of...
It's a relatively new training facility, that medical centre. It's only been opened like 3 years ago as well, isn't it?
Well, you just look at the rest of English football when everyone seems to be doing all right. You know, everyone has the odd injury crisis, but no one has it as bad as us. And it's year on year. It's not like a freak season. It's just...
Exactly. 2 injuries per game is quite a lot, I think.
What it is the fact you look at, so for example, you look at Ramsey and Walcott. I mean, Walcott's arguably our best goal threat. You take that out of City's team, you lose Aguero. I mean, I know they haven't had Aguero a lot, and if they had a fully fit Aguero, then perhaps they would have won the league. But, you take Suarez out of Liverpool, you take, Chelsea haven't got or Hazard, for example, out of Chelsea. Then they're going to be significantly weakened. We've not had Ramsey for the last 3 months. When Ramsey was injured, we were top of the league. When he's come back, we're fighting for 4th again. You take the better, Gerrard out of Liverpool, Yaya Toure out of City, and they're all significantly weakened. Our star players just haven't been available for long enough for the season. And then not only that, but the guys like Oxlade-Chamberlain and Podolski who missed from August till December to January. I mean, there were huge parts of the season. I know we had a good run from that period, but we could have won even more points if they'd been available, perhaps. Or if they could have played instead of Ramsey or Özil, these other players that got injured, kept the squad a bit more fresh, and maybe they wouldn't have got injured. And as I said at the beginning of the show, this season for me will always be the what-if season. The one where United were awful and Chelsea and City weren't great either, and perhaps we could have strung it together and won the league. But we've fallen short for a variety of reasons, but injuries have certainly played a huge part.
Indeed. Let's wrap it up now towards the end. Ben, do you think Wenger will sign a new contract, or do you think he'll leave if we win the FA Cup? Or what do you hope for?
I'd like him to stay because I'd like him to go out on a high. I mean, I think that it would be a shame. He got through the new stadium, got through losing his best players every year for 4 years. I mean, you go back to even had Eduardo not broken his leg, I think we probably would have won the league that year. And I would like him to stay and go out as Ferguson went out on a high. And I think, so I hope he signs, and I hope we get another 2 or 3 years out of him. But I hope he shows a little bit more flexibility when it comes to how we play.
Mm-hmm. Do you think next season should be the real title assault? Do you expect to see a real title assault next season?
Well, I think it's so even now. I mean, there's really, I wouldn't have thought Tottenham will be as bad as they are this year, or Man United. So you really got 7, 6.5, 6 3/4 teams with Everton. So who knows? We just, you got to play it one game at a time, as they say. But we're in with a chance, because I do think, bar the 3 complete meltdowns we had, we played pretty well at times.
Indeed. I suppose we should take a leaf out of a long-suffering Warren.
Yes, you've got to pick up some pointers. 10 o'clock Tuesday night on ITV4.
Great stuff. All right, Warren. Ben.
I'm close to Warren, I promise.
Thanks for coming on and chatting to us, and I hope the show's a real success, and all the best as well for the rest of the year.
Great, thanks, and tell all your friends. Bye-bye.
Definitely.
Bye, Ben.
Will do. Cheers, Ben. Take care. Okay. So I suppose, Callum, just to wrap up, we're going into the game next month. Is it Monday night now? It's Monday night.
So, yes.
8 days rest.
Which is I hate playing on Monday nights.
Yeah, but we've got Newcastle, and most teams seem to be tonking them right now. So.
Even when we, before our last 2 results, even when we were playing awfully, Newcastle were playing worse. They seem to be completely in free fall, and Pardew doesn't seem to know what the hell he's doing. And I know a couple of Newcastle fans that are just tearing their hair out. So inevitably they'll probably beat us 1-0. But no, I think in all seriousness we'll be okay. We've seem to have picked ourselves up after a disappointing few weeks. Özil should hopefully be more on the ball next week, more fit. Ramsey should keep it up. So yeah, we've got a nice long break and plenty of players at our disposal when we should beat Newcastle comfortably. But you wouldn't have thought Sunderland would have beaten Chelsea yesterday, would you? So we can't not mention that, can we?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do you know what? I've been having this inner debate recently of who do I want to win the league. Because I always said that more than anyone I didn't want Chelsea to win it, and then Liverpool, and if I had to choose out of the 3 I would have wanted City. But as Liverpool have got closer to the title, I almost thought, oh, maybe I wouldn't mind Chelsea winning it because I really don't like the idea of Liverpool winning it. But then, you know, when I watched, so obviously a part of me was a little bit like, it would be kind of good if Chelsea keep the pressure up because, anyway, I watched the highlights of the match today last night and you see Ramirez as elbowing face, and then their assistant manager going mental at the referee, and then you see what Mourinho said, and then I just think, actually, do you know what? You get everything you fucking deserve.
Exactly. It's funny that because he had a go at he was like that, you know, that very thinly veiled rant at Barb at Mike Dean, and Jeremy Wilson I think today or yesterday came on Twitter and he said that it's funny because if we remember when we played Chelsea and Mike Dean was in charge, he said that Arsenal have a habit of crying. It's their tradition, you know, and that was in reference.
Well,
when,
yeah,
you know,
and you hope that comes back to bite him. You know,
exactly.
Do you know what? I think it was. You'd like to think if there is karma, if the universe is a just and fair place, that whoever's making the decisions up there remembered that Ramirez took that shocking dive against West Brom back in October time, which saved his record. And you know that awful penalty decision that went against him yesterday was karmic retribution, was the universe just leveling itself up.
Exactly, the world's axis is now set.
Exactly, and you know it's just Mourinho. He's just an absolute
wanker.
4-star, you know. And I just really hope that his specialist in failure comments come back to bite him if Wenger ends the season with his 5th FA Cup and Mourinho. And you know what? What annoys me a bit more than anything is because not many people realise this, is that Mourinho spoke about how next season Chelsea will compete, and we're the little horse and all this, and you know that he's taking the piss to a bit, but in a way it does kind of think, well, it's his first season back. They spent £100 million this season. I mean, it's sad that kind of figure isn't that astonishing anymore, and they can spend that money, and if they finish third or anything, and they don't win anything this season, I'm sorry, mate, but that's failure.
Well, I mean, come on, let's be honest. Abramovich has sacked Benitez. He's released.
Benitez got him into the top 4 and won the Europa League last season.
Exactly. Di Matteo, after winning them the Champions League, I think Avram Grant won them the FA Cup. They all won things and still got sacked.
I don't think Mourinho will go, but I think he's pulled a great trick this season by fooling everyone, almost week by week, always making that point that we're not the favourites. And even though you know that he's not being true to himself or being true to everyone else, you know that he's bullshitting. Over time, it does kind of get into your head that Chelsea aren't this. They shouldn't necessarily be favourites for the title. But then you look at the money they've spent, and I don't care if you haven't got a world-class striker. You know, you should have bought one then. You shouldn't have. And you've got £20 million players all over the park.
You've got a £50 million player on the bench.
Exactly. I just hope that we end the season with the FA Cup and Chelsea end up with diddly squat, and it's all they would deserve. You know, I think they're a team that everyone can jointly hate. Everyone hated United when they were successful, but you hate United for. I mean, they're not the easiest club to like, but they've got a bit more about them than Chelsea have, haven't they? A club that they were going nowhere until they got full of.
There's no way you can't dismiss the money factor of Man City and Chelsea. There's just no way you can dismiss it. But I just wanted to add a 4th option to your list of options in terms of who else you'd like to see win the title, and you know, I thought the 4th option might be you'd rather have dynamite packed up your ass and set it alight and see either Chelsea or Man City winning.
It really has become. It's been an awful season, and the thing is, every time I kind of decide, right, I want this team, if we're not going to win it, how about this team? And then, like, bloody City fell away. The thing with City is that, they've got the money and they've bought their way to success, but they're not quite as scummy as Chelsey, are they? And
they haven't got the arrogance of Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. And I quite like Pellegrini. He seems like a decent fella, a genuinely likeable guy, and he's only made that one comment about referees, and that was against Barcelona, where he probably had a point. So I could have lived with them winning it, and I hope they do win it out of everyone left. But again, it's not exactly a fun choice, is it? And Liverpool,
it makes Dynamite look quite tempting.
It does, Giles. I might have to just. I don't know. It's just all this "we go again" nonsense. This.
Oh,
fuck off. Maybe I'm just being a bitter rival fan, but I'm just sick of this shit. And the way that, like, last weekend, I mean, Suarez dived when he was on a yellow card, nothing given. Skirtle punched the ball away, then he pulled a shirt, did it again today, pulled a shirt. Flanagan took out Silva last week. But, you know, Gerrard makes a Braveheart speech with tears in his eyes, and that's the story. There's no...
The football world goes all mush.
Yeah, there's no... City got really fucked out of a result, because they did. They should have had 4 penalties, and there should have been a red card, and Suarez shouldn't have been eligible today, because he should have been sent off. And you know, and what annoys me the most about it is that Liverpool fans always go on about, oh, the FA, they don't want us to win anything, they love Man United, and they've been given, 12 penalties this season?
Really?
Yeah, Gerrard scored 10, and they got 3 against United, including the one where Sturridge just dived, and
Yes.
you know, it's just it's the chip on the shoulder. And I saw someone say, there was some Arsenal fans I was reading debating about who they wanted to win the league, and a couple of them did say they would have wanted Liverpool because, you know, they've played good football, and that's all fair enough. But someone made the point that if you want Liverpool to win the league, then you don't know any Liverpool fans, which I think is pretty true. And also every other bastard in the media are the ex-Liverpool player, aren't they?
Oh, tell me about it.
All willing them over the line. And it's just like, shut up. And
Exactly.
all we've got is Paul Merson fighting our corner, and he can barely speak properly. So.
Exactly, and Smudges Smith occasionally.
Yeah, but
he was a bit funny with Arsenal. Right?
They're all none of them are biased though. Not the way that your Phil Thompsons and your Graham Souness's and Michael Owen. They're just all so
Jamie Carragher's and Alan Hanson's, and the list goes on. And Mark Lawrenson. Oh gosh,
Jamie Redknapp. It's just
Jim Beglin. Okay. Yeah. All right.
It's going to be at least we'll have the World Cup to distract ourselves from what will be. But anyway, with regards to Arsenal, we're looking. We had a good win today. We're in the FA Cup final. Things could be worse, and you hope though that today this is Hull City at their best, and then in the cup final they won't have Long or Jelavic. So
they have to adopt a different system, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I don't think they got Matty Fry, who came off the bench today. I don't know who else they've got up front, but
I think there's Sonny Aluko and
Aluko. I don't think he's an out-and-out striker though. When I watched him in Scotland with Rangers, he played.
I know, but they're not going to play 2 up front.
No, they won't. They'll play 5 in the middle. I think today was almost. I think Bruce would have learnt today. He's not. I quite like Steve Bruce as well, but I think he would have learnt today that 4-4-2 ain't going to work. It'll be a slow affair. It'll be a cagey one, and you just hope that we'll have enough about us to come out on top. But you can almost guarantee that it won't be as straightforward as today, will it?
No,
if it's 3-0, we'll score 3 in the 90th minute. It won't be.
Yeah, I'll take a 1-0. No one cares how we won it as long as we won it.
I'll take anything. I'll take another penalty shootout if it needs. Well, I don't want that to happen, but I'd take it.
It's not the means, it's the end, or is it not?
After 9 years of just.
Yeah. Nearlies and yeah, exactly. All right, Cal, let's wrap it up now. So back again probably Thursday for the preview show. Which you'll be hosting, won't you? With any luck?
Most likely, we'll have to wait and see. I did it once with the Bayern game post-match, but we'll see how we go.
Good stuff. All right, cheers, mate. Thanks for coming on.
See you later.
That's been the Gooner Ramble and Arsenal Fan TV podcast. I've been Giles. That's been Callum. Good day, good evening, and enjoy the rest of your week.